in order to avoid copyright issues, I wasn't recording that part. So whoever views this just on video, you missed a good Vampirina mummy rap song. If you go to YouTube and look for the mummy rap in Disney Junior, Vampirina, you'll know what we went through, and you'll also know our now joke. The Headless Horseman went into business because he wanted to get ahead. That's about as good as they get. I don't get much better than that one. So, let's see. And this is my Halloween costume, at least on camera. The Headless Instructor. All right, let's go on with our housekeeping today. You guys have had a busy couple weeks. So there's no homework due this week. We will be posting out homework 6 toward the end of this week, I believe. We're working on it right now. We're also working on the test. The test is scheduled for 10/29. I posted solution keys for the overview and for the previous test earlier or late last night, I think. Let's make sure that those are up and ready. Yeah, those should be good for you now. You should be able to see those. The other thing we did is we went in and we posted a practice exam on Submiti. And I told you that we would not have the same problem we had last time with people misunderstanding the time. It's going to be very explicit this time. If you come into Exam 2 practice test, you can kind of go through everything. I've already been through it a couple of times, so you'll see that one I didn't do very well. There's no scoring on this Exam 2 practice, by the way. But the other thing what you'll notice when you go in is there's going to be a start screen. The start screen, your exam does not start until you click accept on that start screen. Once you do, you'll have 90 minutes nominally. Those of you with accommodation for half additional time will have 135 minutes, and those with 100% additional time will have 180 minutes. So you'll go in and you'll see a start screen pop up, and it'll allow you to accept and start, or to just hold off for a little bit while you kind of figure it out. I won't get that anymore because I've already started the exam. It doesn't make sense to pop that up once you've already started. What you'll see is you'll see something that looks a lot like this. Not exactly, but a lot like this. I get some extra buttons that you guys wouldn't have. There'll be some material up here, just kind of walking through it a little bit. We're looking
we can't see it.
Ah, you can't see it. Awesome. Why did this not... Oh, I wasn't on the right. There, now it's switched, I hope. Yeah, now I look really fuzzy. Okay, so if you come in, if you go up to here where it says Exam 2 Practice Test, like I said, when you come in, you'll see when you hit this submit button the first time, you'll see some additional instructions, and you'll have the opportunity to either wait for a few minutes or to start. Don't wait too long because we are going to have this open probably from 6:55 probably till 11:55 again, although we haven't made that determination. So please, you'll have to pay attention and kind of get that. We will send out a notice in the next couple of days. The notice will tell you how long the test is going to run for. It will also give you nominal starting times. We're going to divide you up into groups based on your lab time, and we'll say, please start your exam between, for example, 6:55 and 7:10. Whenever you start your exam, if you have an issue and you can't start it in the time, don't worry about that. Your timer doesn't start until you click that accept button on the first screen that comes up after you hit submit. But we're just trying to stagger you guys out so that we don't hit Submiti all at once. We'll probably stagger you out over a period of 2 hours recommended starting times. Please follow that as closely as you can. We know that for some of you that'll be an issue. If there's a time zone issue, or if you have an issue with your computer, please start it as close to your time as possible. Again, just to try to keep everybody from ganging up on Submiti at the same time. We figure it can probably handle close to 100 of you at a time, but that's still about 2 hours if we stagger you every 15 minutes. So please, keep that in mind. When you come in, you'll see something that looks like this. This is the first thing that'll pop up is a screen that says, are you ready to get started? And it'll give you the normal instructions that we have on the front page of the exam. Once you go past that, you'll see something like this. You can ignore my answers. You should give your own answers. But there'll be a little section up here that explains the test. There will be 3 or 4 descriptions. This description is really short. Write a short program to create a list L with odd integers from 11 up to 1011. There's a little text box that you can type in. This one wants a short program to print out the closest 2 points in a list L of tuples. You can assume L is given, and then we give you a little example. Put in the code to do that. And I'm going to change this a little bit. Just make a change. And here's the third one. So you can see this particular exam has 3 questions. If you run out of space on any of these, it'll keep going. Right? You shouldn't need that much space. We will leave space for at least our answers plus some change. If you have to go beyond this, don't be too concerned. It's okay. Except for, I'm going to talk a little bit about that in just a minute. There is something going too far on some of the test questions. When you're done, you hit submit. You're not going to get a grade, except if you go over the time limit. You're going to get, now you can see that I've gone 100 minutes over the time limit. If you go over the time limit, or if you submit more than 10 times, we're going to start deducting a penalty. The 10 times is to try to keep traffic on Submiti down. We are going to be stressing the system. If everybody submits 50 times, Submiti's not going to make it. So after 10 times, we're going to start deducting points. We're going to deduct a point per additional submission above 10. We're also going to deduct, I got 942 penalty minutes because I just submitted again for you guys. So, we're going to deduct points for every minute you're over your 90 or 135 or 180. We are also, we still are going to continue to submit these answers through our plagiarism checker. So, again, we're doing our best to make sure that this is a fair exam and that everybody gets the same treatment. So, please respect that and do your own code and follow the directions. Okay. Any questions on this? Wow. Let's see. So, if you have a problem with Submiti, so one of the questions is, what are you going to do if Submiti has a problem? Well, first thing is, until you hit that submit button, your time doesn't start. So if you're having problems, don't worry about it. It won't start until you've actually gotten in and you've gotten to this screen. If you have problems submitting, continue to submit until you're done. When you're finished, when you get the submission in, if you had problems, email us. We will we will look into it. Don't wait until the next day to do your submission. Make sure your submission gets in. We'll do our best to resolve everything as quickly as we can. In fact, we will resolve everything as quickly as we can. But make sure that you get your submission in so we get a time tag on you. If you're a couple of minutes late, we will probably just, give you a grace period. If you're 2 days late, we're not going to believe it. Right? So, get it in as quickly as you can. This is open notes. It is open, the same thing that was open is open this time. You can use your IDE if you'd like. I'm going to recommend against it. What I'm going to suggest you do, at least initially, what I'm going to suggest you do is you write your answers out and you do it as fast as you can in the 3 or 4 boxes we give you. Then when you're done with that, then go through and try to make it correct, right? Try to debug it. Debugging can take a seriously long time sometimes to get rid of some very minor bugs. I think a lot of you ran into that on the last exam. You ended up using so much time on the first 2 questions that you had problems getting to the last 2. So get answers in for everything, then go back and try to debug them to make them right. We will instruct the TAs and mentors who do marking. We will instruct them on how to mark it. The penalty for having non-running code is going to be less than not having the correct algorithm. So, make sure you get the algorithm correct first, even if there are some minor glitches, and then get that for everything, and then go back and make everything run if you can. Open Notes, Open IDE, you can use things on your system. Do not communicate with anybody else about this test. If you're talking to your friends and you're explaining answers to them or you're explaining questions to them, that is a violation of policy. If we catch you, we will give you a 0 for the test at a minimum. The penalty for cheating can be as high as an F, and we are not going to hesitate to apply penalties. So please don't communicate with your friends, don't communicate with your mom and dad, don't communicate with another professor. Do your own work. Don't communicate with Stack Overflow, right? Do your own work, write your own code. You can use your own resources, help systems, the IDE, things you have on your computer. Don't go searching for answers. You won't be asked to print Hello World for your test. At least that won't be an entire question.
Wait, we're allowed lecture notes too, right?
You're allowed you're allowed lecture notes as well. No, you have 90 minutes to write and then submit. The 10 minutes is just for this specific little test exam. So this exam, just so you guys could practice going over and see what happens, I made the time limit 10 minutes. The actual exam is 90 minutes, and you expect to hit submit at the end of that period. Okay? See. So the question is there anywhere you can find good practice problems? The exam that we posted on course materials. Let's see, wherever that is. Right, we posted an overview. There's a lot of questions in the overview. There's a lot of, and then we also posted an exam from spring 2017. I wouldn't worry so much about the what's the output types of questions. It's too easy for you to get the output by running it in your IDE. So I wouldn't expect we have any of those. But particularly the long form questions there are good examples of questions that have actually been on tests in the past. So you should be able to do those. T2 overview has a lot of questions as well. We've posted solutions to all of those for you to see finally. So those are good practice problems. You can also do any of the problems from the lecture, and any of the problems from the labs are good candidates as well. And your homework, they will be simpler problems than on your homework or your labs, but they won't be trivial. It won't run on Submiti for you. All it'll do is give you, we're not going to allow you to run it on Submiti because, you'll have to get the feedback after we grade you. You can use the IDE. You can check with Spider. Thank you, Kristen.
Do we all start the actual exam at the same time?
So that was the first thing I went up against, was that we will probably we're still working out these details, but we will send you an email Our intention is to have you start at different times. We're going to try to have about 100 of you start in each 15-minute block from 6:55 till 8:55. You will get a note as to your starting time. If you have issues with that, you're allowed to submit. You're allowed to start the test earlier or later. Remember that there will be a closing time for the exam. You will be expected to have submitted by that time, so don't push against that. And remember that going earlier is going to impact things as well. So we will give you all a starting time. It'll be in the 2 hours, probably spread over 2 hours from 6:55 till 8:55, and that's to avoid hitting submitting really hard, both on startup and as you're submitting your answers. Okay. Any other questions? Kristen, anything out there? No. Okay. All right. So that's that about the test. There's one final thing I want to talk about the test, and it's if you have an issue with the starting time, so if you have if you have an issue with the starting time after we send it out to you, please contact us. There will be no penalty that I'm aware of, unless you guys crash the system, and then there'll be penalties all around. No, if you can't start on time, if you can't start during the block we assigned you, please reach out to us and tell us. We will tell you what to do. Right? So if you have a dryer being delivered, and it's going to be delivered at the same time as your start time, let us know. We will give you a different staggered start time. But in general, we want you all starting within the 15-minute period we give you. And please look for that email message. Cheyenne Hulbert is working on that right now, is working on dividing you guys up. And I think the last thing that I'm being asked about is, I guess there's two things. Three things now. You can use Spider and you can copy it into your submittee block. I would recommend going in the other direction, writing it in the submittee block so that you get answers to all of the questions we give you first, and then copying out of the submittee block into Spider, testing, debugging, fixing, and then copy back over. That's fine. You're allowed to do that. That's part of using your IDE. Just be careful, because it's oftentimes, a cut and paste is going to count against you. A cut and paste error is going to count against you. You can't tell us, I had it right, but I cut and pasted wrong. We have, there's a possible curve. Certainly, anytime that the average is too low, we do a curve. So that's certainly a possibility. We're hoping that you all do well and we don't have to. We will never curve down. We will only curve up. So you've got that. If you guys all do well, we won't penalize you. Exam 1 regrade requests, most of those should have been returned by now. I will track down the ones that haven't been answered. We'll do that in the next day or two. You can submit multiple. Yeah, okay, that one's already been answered. The expected average is 95. No, we expect in general, we shoot for we're looking for a high C, low B overall average. So that's kind of what we're looking for. Or maybe around, I guess around the 75. I guess that's a mid C. Is really where we start looking for curving up or down. For curving up, we don't curve down. All right. No, there was no curve on the last exam. It was close to the average we're looking for, and there were enough other issues with it. We're going to just drop it for people whose average it hurts. So No need to curve it. No curving doesn't. Yep. Thank you. All right, so I'm going to go on. Unless there are other questions, I'll check back. Kristen is keeping a nice little summary. If we need to, I'm sorry, there was one more thing that I wanted to talk about. Kristen's doing a nice little summary, but there's also one more thing I want to talk about. On your homeworks, we saw a lot of people, substantially more people than expected, do something like this. So what they had was they were checking for whether there were capital letters, and then down lower they would check for lowercase letters. I don't have that in there. So they had a big long while loop. They looped over the string, and then they compared to every possible letter in the alphabet as a capital, and then quite honestly sometimes down below they compared against every possible letter of the alphabet in lowercase. This is going to take you a long time. And if you have an error, it's going to be really, really hard to debug. Okay? It's also really unnecessary. Make sure you know your string and list operations, because they will help you out in these situations. So, for example, we can replace all of this code with if I in all of that code is this, right? You could check for I having a membership in the set that contains all of the capital letters, right? Or you could ask for if I dot is alpha. Right?
Wait, Professor, you said I dot is alpha. Did you put I dot is alpha? Is that correct or wrong?
It is alpha, like I typed in here. Yeah, so, it returns true if the string is an alphabetic character. There's is decimal. That tests whether it's a decimal character. Right? And even if you didn't, is decimal. Let me make sure. I think I spelled that wrong. Is decimal. Okay, and that'll check whether it's one of the digits. Okay, so when you and on top of that, if you really wanted to, if you didn't trust any of these, instead of having all of those nested if statements, you could just do something right? So don't brute force things. It's really inefficient as far as coding. It'll take you longer. It'll be impossible to debug. And if we're trying to figure out whether you know your list and string functions, you're not going to demonstrate that to us. So there'll probably be a deduction. Okay, we're less, on the homeworks, we're more forgiving on this stuff. We try to write our test questions so that you can tell what the intent is. A lot of times we will we'll give you hints. Don't go down this path. But be careful. Don't make sure you understand this stuff, because using 52 if statements or if clauses to get around writing a while loop or doing a string in command. Right, you could do a string find here as well. Writing 52 else clauses is not a good way to go. It's not really learning what we need you to learn. It's not demonstrating competence in loops. It's not demonstrating understanding of lists, etc. All right, we have spent way more time on this than I necessarily